We know you enjoy the videos here on the Audrain Museum Network, especially those where I get to have lots of fun driving cars that I love. So become a subscriber today if you're not already. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon to be notified of great new content being posted, and join us here on the channel more often. Thanks. Ferrari has been known over the years to generally not be a manufacturer that pioneers things very often, preferring to let others do the development work and then to come out with a slightly more developed example of whatever it is that is introduced. However, there was one great exception, and the car I'm driving today is an example of that. This is a 1998 Ferrari 355 F1. F1? Why is that? Obviously, it's a passenger car. It's not a Formula One car. But it's F1 for the Formula One derived paddle shifting transmission. And it was a great breakthrough and a great example of racing technology brought to the street. Now, these cars have been very misunderstood for a long time for a variety of reasons, some of which we'll touch on during this drive. But I can say this. The Ferrari 355 is a very highly regarded car. The development of the 348, Ferrari looked to improve on the drivability of the 348 and its everyday performance. The primary reason for this was to respond to the fact that people were looking at cars like Ferrari as more than just idle hour playthings. They wanted cars that could really be used in the real world on a reliable basis and on a regular basis. And so one of the things the 355 had over the 348 was 5 valve per cylinder, making for better breathing and better power production throughout the range, more smooth power production. And of course, this interesting gearbox. Now, this, just like the super modern double clutch transmissions found in today's high performance cars, is not an automatic transmission, of course. It is a manual gearbox with electronically controlled shifts. Again, something out of Formula One. And part of the reason why people look at these cars and say, well, I'd much rather have the manual shift. One is, of course, the romance of the manual shift car, especially in a Ferrari with a wonderful gated shifter. The other is the fact that these transmissions, especially when viewed in the light of a modern double clutch paddle shift system, take a different kind of driving style to really work the best. It is not like a modern car where you just stay on the gas and just hit the shifter and boom, it selects the gear and off you go. Remember, this is a manual gearbox being controlled by electronic shifters. So if you take just a moment to lift, as you shift, the shifts are absolutely smooth and beautiful. The downshifts are sharp and fast, and it has something which I think is absolutely really neat. Of course, it does not downshift automatically for you, but should you get to a stop and forget to put the car into neutral, it will do it automatically, but while reminding you that you haven't done it with a little audible beep. It's very rewarding. You do feel like Eddie Irvine or Michael Schumacher when you do that. Now, of course, I said I'm driving a 1998 Ferrari and that this technology came directly over Formula One. Of course, anyone who follows Formula One or followed Formula One, and especially any Ferrari fan, knows that the 1997 season was one that you might want to have forgotten. Schumacher was in his second year with the Scuderia, and he had done a marvelous job, both he and Eddie Irvine, in scoring the points, winning races, getting good podium finishes, and it all came down to the final race. And Jacques Villeneuve and Schumacher were almost tied. And Michael, bless his heart, had a moment of the red-purple mist and slightly steered into Jacques to try to perhaps disadvantage him in the race. Well, he ended up disadvantaging himself. He ended up in the gravel. Villeneuve went on to finish the race, and the rest is Formula One history. Schumacher was excluded from the results of the season, although Ferrari did get to keep its manufacturer points. But he did not finish second in the season. That honor went to Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who was Villeneuve's teammate. But nonetheless, the wonderful thing to come out of that season, of course, is the introduction of this gearbox in this road car. And another thing which is great about driving a car like this 355, is again, it's a reminder of how much cars have changed in the last few decades. This car has a lightness that you just cannot imagine in a performance car of today. It really harkens back far more to the performance cars of the 1960s than looking ahead to what would come in the later 2000s. It's very light and eager on the wheel. The visibility is excellent. And this Pininfarina designed Berlinetta body is also so incredibly pretty. It's really stunning in black, as this one is finished. And the tan Connolly hides are absolutely wonderful, and nothing smells like the old Connolly hides that they used in these cars. It's a wonderfully rich, slightly sweet smell that is just absolutely wonderful and just puts you in the mood for great driving. It's also quite interesting. This car has a very low mileage. It's got just under 16,000 miles from new. And the one thing I had to say is that this beautifully odoriferous Connolly leather hasn't held up that well in terms of the getting in and out of the cars. But nonetheless, it is something that's worth maintaining to its proper level just to keep this. A beautifully, lightly patinaed interior in this lovely, lovely, lovely shape. It's really quite magical. The airiness of this cabin really is something that has to be experienced. The way the dash drops away from you and just gives you this incredible sense of space and comfort is really quite wonderful. These cars, the 348s, the 355s, and not so much the 360s, which are a very different kind of car, but certainly these 348s and 355s really have a feeling of being sons of Dino in the way they look, in the way they drive. Just wonderful. Just lift your foot and the car just gives you exactly what it wants to. It's a very, very satisfying drive indeed. And I have to say it, not just because I am fortunate enough to own a Ferrari. Whether you own one or not, there is something quite special about sitting behind the wheel with that wonderful emblem on it, because it just speaks of history and tradition and performance and care. And the men and women that built these cars from 1948 onwards, just what these cars mean to them, to Italy, to the world. And the psychological component of the car you drive cannot be discounted, in my mind. And that can be for a Ford, for a Shelby, for a Chevrolet, for an Oldsmobile. When you can feel a real connection with the builders and what they intended, what they achieved, that's quite magical. For a car of this age, and again, it's amazing to think 1998 was just yesterday as far as I'm concerned, but this is a car that's now 26 years old. It is thoroughly modern in feel. This is a car that I'd easily get into and drive for hours and hours and hours at a time. And it's also comfortable. Sometimes with mid-engine cars, you get that really skewed off-center driving position because of the wheel wells, the way they're sat inside the car. They quite cleverly designed this car with the driver closer to the middle line so that you didn't get so much of that offset that you sometimes get in a car like this. I think that as a tribute to the rebuilding that was going on at Ferrari Formula One and to the designers at Pininfarina, this car stands as a great tribute to what Enzo Ferrari set out to do, to bring the best of the racing breed to the street, to his customers that helped to fund his racing fun. And not that we talk about the market here on this channel, it's all about the driving experience. It's also quite interesting to see, however, that the market has started to respond to these cars in a big way. People are recognizing what pleasure they can get out of actually using these cars and appreciating the best examples they can find. And this is a pleasure indeed. I'm glad to have had it and just shared it with you all here today. Now, some more great driving.